It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm taking it from medtech AI to AI applied to the exploration challenge of our lifetime, which is finding where all those battery and critical minerals of the future are going to come from. In our view, they're going to come from Australia, from the data that we've been able to generate. More than $10 billion worth of data that's been put into developing one of the biggest data sets in the world. There's a lot more to be discovered in Australia, but we need to have a new toolbox of way to be able to do that. And SensOre is taking the innovation that's happening in the technology sector and revolutionising what happens in the exploration space. And hopefully I can get the thing to work. It's always when you start talking about technology, you'll click on the button too far. We listed back in February. I think we listed on the day that the Ukraine war started, so it was an auspicious event for us to be listing on the market, and we've been, I guess, riding the volatility that's been happening ever since. We're tightly held. A lot of our directors and founders come from very strong BHP, Rio Tinto research backgrounds. A lot of the management team has a significant portion of the stock. And we have many of our clients have come on board in our share register, including BHP Ventures and DGO Gold, which has now been acquired by Gold Road. Market cap's around 30 million, and we've been trading relatively consistently all through that period of time. As I mentioned before, we're really about the big challenge. It's batteries, it's electric vehicles, 200 kilos of copper in every single electric vehicle that comes up. We do not simply have the supply for this material globally. We're going to have to look at new, more challenging, complex types of deposits, deposits undercover, deeper deposits. The approach that we've taken previously, going out, sampling different areas, looking at the outcrop, this will no longer work. It won't deliver the exponential increase in copper, nickel, lithium that we require for the future. We think that the approach is to go and use areas that have big data, where the governments and visionary companies have been able to collect that information, be able to apply learnings from related sectors to this challenge. Now, what we do is we have a unique business model in terms of the fact that we create a big search space for data where other companies see value in being able to work with us to unlock the potential within their own data systems. So we generate revenue, we're cash flow positive on our technology side, and that's where the partnership with BHP and Ventures and many of the other majors have come from in that regard. But then when we work creating this big data set, we see diamonds in the data, sometimes literally, but usually for gold and precious metals. We'll pick up those targets. We have our own 100% exploration exposure to gold, nickel and copper based on that system. We will improve the data on those projects. We will take equity and royalty and work with third-party companies to develop a portfolio of AI-generated targets, either wholly owned or in joint venture with third parties. So just getting you to the technology, and part of AI is pattern recognition. So what a geologist does, we've sort of tried to train the computer to be able to understand what a geologist's thought processes are when they go and look at a deposit. When someone goes to a new area, they have their expertise, their knowledge, their background of all the deposits they've seen, their research papers they've read, that information. So we take 10,000 in the case of gold, different gold deposits of all different styles, with all of the different types of data associated with it, and we develop a digital fingerprint for each of those deposit styles. So, for example, in geology, we train the computer to be a geologist. We train them to be able to read a report, be able to extract the relevant information, be able to read a geological map, take all of the key points out, and convert it into a quantitative data layer. So that for the first time you can run algorithms and pattern recognition on the observations of geologists going back decades. In the past you have had to read a lifetime of reading of reports that have been filed to be able to do that. We then marry up that information with the geophysics, large continuous data sets, a bit like an MRI over the continent, and combine it with the geology to be able to interpret those areas. And then we suck in vast geochemical data sets to be able to fingerprint what it takes to be a deposit, not only just an interesting occurrence of geology and geophysical information, but what is the grade, the depth, the economic parameters that mean that an area is special. So the computer learns all those relationships, and then we set it loose in what we call our data cube. Now, the data cube is a digital representation, a digital twin, if you like, of the Australian continent, populated by those three main data sources, the geology, geophysics, and geochemistry, but then all the derivatives, all of the approaches associated with it. So there are, within our system, close currently to 2,500 variables associated with every 400 by 400 metre cell across the 40 million data cells that make up the continent. And it's not only just the data in those cells, it's the relationship with each of those layers between each of those cells and their proximity to important features. So proximity to major crustal boundaries, to deep fault structures, proximity to systems that have hosted major mine deposits, etc. And when we've built up this picture, and it's a learning system, as soon as people publish more information, it grows, it learns, it improves its predictions. We know that tomorrow will be better than it is today, and so on and so on. To the point where we will be able to have a pretty good picture without having to collect data, without having to be able to send drill rigs out to the desert, being able to test these announcements and information. We can be able to do it digitally, be able to model and understand the total economic endowment possible in Australia for all the minerals that we choose to seek. So part of the big selling point, part of the work we've been doing in the research is how do you extract sort of very large data sets, like 8.5 million surface samples from the GSWA research departments in government, or 280 million downhole drill samples, and be able to build that into the imaging process. So we've had to develop innovations and software based on machine learning at all of the steps in the process. It's no one algorithm, it's a whole series of innovations across the exploration workflow to get us to the place where we want to be. And then you can do things like look at the elements. Here we're looking at copper, lithium, nickel and gold, potential endowment from geology, geophysics and surface geochemistry to build up the first maps of the continent underneath cover that people have ever seen in this sort of scale or resolution. It opens up new terrains of exploration, new possibilities for discovery that people have been unable to see in the past. And we're out validating that with drilling as we speak, and both us and the clients with which we work. Part of the exciting things we've pulled together is out in the Nullarbor, 4 major nickel projects that we've been able to recognise on open ground. One in joint venture with Chalice Mining, which people are probably very familiar with. We have the RIU project there in the northeast. Very exciting, very large, 1,200 kilometre geophysical feature that our system loves. We're out looking at testing that at the moment. Munera, just to the south of that large Aurelia project. We just put close to a 750 metre hole into that with WA government funding, being able to test the predictions from our system for copper gold mineralisation, and we should have assays back in the next couple of months. But exciting times on nickel and minerals such as that. We also work with a company called Prime Lithium, which is funded out of Germany, a really innovative group looking at lithium processing technologies in Europe to guarantee their future battery supply, given particularly the energy needs of Europe going forward and moving away from gas and other minerals. So we're out developing a pipeline of 8 targets for them. They're paying us $1 million and we're taking a 30% equity in those lithium projects that have been developed by all that data we pulled together, all of the analogues between deposits. And there's some exciting new lithium potential that we've identified as part of that process, and we're working with them to unlock that value in the coming year. One of the things we've done so far is pull together sort of the biggest geophysical, geochemical data set across the world. We've found that our clients love this. They want to get access to it themselves. They want to pay for it. It can shortcut the data identification process on a new project by 6 months. because we've done all the work for everyone up front. So we've worked with a company called CGI. They're a New York Stock Exchange $20 billion specialist in developing technology platforms to allow people to access our data and be able to protect it from use that we don't authorise. So we're making that go live later in the year, a big investment for us in commercialising the data and investment in exploration that we've been undertaking as SensOre since 2019, but for predecessor organisations much longer. So you'll be getting a data platform where companies can log on, can access all the information that they've ever wanted to, upload their information, use our algorithms that automatically integrate that, level it against the geology and geochemistry, clean the information associated with it, just so that they can help target the more than $10 billion that are spent globally annually in greenfield exploration projects. We drill too much, we disturb too much land, we need to do data better and explore and make better discoveries. Just to give you a bit of an idea, oil and gas exploration, it's a different scenario, 20 or 30% success rate from greenfield exploration to discovery. In the hard rock mineral space, less than 1% for industry-wide, best in class is between 3 and 5%. If we can lift the exploration success rate just to 10%, 15% or 20%, we will revolutionise the exploration process and ensure a future of a mining-led economy in Australia for generations forward. I've sort of alluded to a bit of the sustainability angle with SensOre. I mean, we're at about more surgical, more targeted collection of geoscience data. So less drilling to be able to generate better data approaches, less land disturbance, particularly on Indigenous and remote and rural areas. And we're obviously looking for, and the technology was designed for battery and critical mineral development, which is necessary for the energy transition globally. I'll just touch on our gold assets, which are the 100% owned, or in some cases 60, 70, 80% component. We started this work on gold assets more than 2 years ago. We did so because gold is the most assayed for element of any metal within the exploration space in Australia. It has the best training data set of deposits. And we have some pretty exciting targets within that patch. So we have around 10 prospects that we're developing with funding from companies like DGO Gold and investment from other joint ventures that we tie up with projects in those areas. One of the projects that we're drilling today as we speak is Balagundi. Balagundi is just within 10 k's of the Kalgoorlie Super Pit. It stood out within our system, very similar to some of the big mines in that location, but it's been overlooked. It was a gold mining town in the 1890s. It's had no modern exploration drilling on it. But our target there outlined in dotted ellipse, vertical ellipse there, was the output from the system. We've drilled that. We've picked up significant wide space gold anomalism in our air core and first pass. We're following up on those for deeper targeted drilling on those gold expressions. But in terms of validation of the system, of getting us into the right locations, a very strong project. Some of you might be invested in Great Boulder Resources Mulga Bill discovery near Meekatharra, very exciting one by Andrew Patterson. Our system predicted that before it was announced. We were only able to pick up the southern portion of that target. We're drilling that, we've drilled that in the last few weeks and we're waiting for assays. So you can see to the far north there, they've got some pretty stunning gold results and it's shaping up to a very nice resource. We actually like the southern portion just as much and look forward to being able to talk about that more. But that whole Meekatharra area, we think there's a lot more to be discovered and particularly after the next phase of drilling. We've just mobilised the rig. It came from Balagundi to go to Maynards Dam. Maynards Dam is a joint venture with 3 companies in different packages. So we've tied together land tenure from Torque Metals, Jindalee Resources and Lefroy, all well-known, very significant, strong mining companies. We recognised this north-south trend was potential from the system. You can see the 2 ellipses there are the targets, one open pit, one underground. and it's targeting that north-south feature. So we didn't actually have any of the historical drilling when we made this prediction. They were in paper records we didn't have access to. But you've got all grade intercepts that have never been followed up, and we're out testing them in the next few weeks, which is pretty exciting for us. Lastly, we throw up some wildcards. Boudinot, middle of, not known for a gold region. We were puzzled by the AI telling us to go into that location because it isn't one of the recognised gold districts that you've seen in the last three slides. We went out there, tested, did the survey over the area, picked up widespread gold mineralisation over a very large area. We've got a very experienced board. I mentioned those: Alf Ego, CTO, former head of CRA research; Tom Whiting, found Cannington, ex-VP of exploration for BHP, and a number of others. And finally, we've got an exciting company. This thing can change what exploration's been doing. We've got a great pipeline of projects and some fantastic clients to be working with who are real innovators. So thank you very much for the time, and it was a pleasure. Please see me at my booth.
Thank you, Sarah. Certainly interesting.